we came here today to discuss Kevin Smith. I got we've already reviewed Clerks 3 and whatnot, but I got the Clerks 3 Blu-ray, and I was delighted to see, I guess Jay and Silent Bob reboot did very well on physical media for Lionsgate. And so Lionsgate somehow, unbeknownst to me, distributed Clerks 3. The reason I'm confused about that is because I thought that the Weinstein Company and or Miramax or whatever parent company scooped them up after the Weinstein debacle. I thought they owned the rights to Clerks. And so I'm just not really sure how Lionsgate pulled this off, but they did. And they released a Blu-ray because they know that Kevin Smith movies sell really well on optical, probably in a very unique way, because his fandom comes out for the optical media, collects his movies, and they're large in size, but still fairly niche, something like that. It's like probably a very specific business model just for him and his fans. And the Blu-ray, I was just really happy to see. It had a lot of special features. It had like outtakes and deleted scenes, a group commentary track, and then 2 feature-length documentaries. And one of them was just watching him direct and stuff on the set. And it's a lot of speech giving, I tell you. It's a lot of, they must have to stop constantly for this guy to be like, hey man, 27 years ago, a kid named Kev Smith, man, dreamed of making a fucking movie in a convenience store. And 27 years later, man, we're back making that dream. Not once, but twice, man. Not twice, but 3 times, man. It's
uncanny.
They just
lost a bunch of weight too.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been following in this guy's fat shadow for a long time. So whatever, I get a kick out of watching them make the movie. But then they made this other one called like the 3 Decades of Clerks, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be boring. They're gonna talk about everything I already know. Like, it was such a smash success in the 90s or whatever. And it was a bit of that. It was redundant. But then there's this middle section where Jeff Anderson gets a lot of time. Jeff Anderson plays Randall, and he gets a lot of airtime. And he talks in depth about how he really, really didn't want to do Clerks 2. Like, he was driving to the set going, I can't believe I said yes to this. It's so stupid. It's like all color now, and it doesn't have any of the indie grunge. And it's like, it's just going to be stupid, and it's going to ruin the legacy of the thing. And then he did it, and he was okay with it. And then I guess they didn't even pay him really. And so he was like, no, I'm not even getting paid, and I don't want to do it, and I don't want to be an actor. And then it all happened again for Clerks 3. But it happened with a script that they didn't produce. And I said in my review, I'd love to know what it was that Kevin had originally written before the heart attack, before he rewrote Clerks 3.
Do you stand by that statement?
I just wanted to know what it was. And yes, I'm very happy to know what it was. So yeah, let's, I know you saw the documentary too, EJ. Did that, the Jeff Anderson stuff strike you as like kind of interesting?
Oh, definitely. It was amazing how candid he was and how much they left his very candid remarks in. Yeah, the way he was describing, like, even, going onto the set of Clerks 2 and like having like a panic attack when he's like seeing like the fast food restaurant, the bright colors, and he's just like, what is this? This is being like panicking about it. And being like, this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea, he would say over and over again.
This is a really
the thing that's like great about that guy is like it doesn't matter what I've seen him on like YouTube channels where just like a random YouTube channel showed up at like a con thing, and like they're doing an interview. Second fucking sentence out of his mouth every single time is like, yeah, well, I'm not an actor, so. But it's like,
you must.
He's done this for like, well, on and off for decades now. It's like, I don't know if he's just not confident in what he's doing, or if it's just a complete lack of.
What is he in his off life? I don't even know what he is in his off life. What does he do?
Yeah, what does Jeff Anderson do for a living? Somebody has Googled it. Actor, film director, screenwriter, film actor. Yeah, is he just rich off of like Clerks 1 and then doesn't want to do any further ones? I mean,
they didn't pay him for Clerks 2, so I don't know how much money he would have made off Clerks 1.
Yeah. It's very confusing. They say he's worth $2 million. Maybe Clerks the animated series got him through a few years. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, because he says he's not an actor. So that made me wonder, like, well, what is he? Does he like have a plumbing business? What is he?
Yeah, strange. I just Googled him and like there's a thumbnail that says like I don't like to act. He clearly does not like to act.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. I mean, on a number of occasions now, I've made movies where people who are prominently featured in the film had no aspirations to be in a film, and it's always ironic because normally I cast them because they're kind of pitch perfect for the role, and they end up like I'm thinking of Keith, I'm thinking of Alan, I'm thinking of Hannah, and Having Fun Up There. And so they're always great.
Keith steals the show in Sexually Frank. He's fantastic in that film.
So he's a great example of like
I'm not like blowing any smoke. I'm just genuinely just
he's very good. Yeah. Well, he's like a very real I mean, that's the thing about acting is like it needs to be honest, and he's like a very honest person to his core. And so all he had to do was be comfortable and then like live the role a little bit. And it was also kind of written for him, so it just kind of worked. But yeah, like we would go to film festivals together. Most notably, we went to Australia to the Sydney Underground Film Festival, and people are coming up to him thinking that because like everybody wants to be in a movie, everybody wants to be cast in a lead role in a movie, and he's just going like, "I did this as a favor to my friend Frankie.
I'm not an actor, guys.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even really. I didn't want to do it, but he's my friend, so I said yes, and it's awkward for me to have a movie out there where I'm, like there's any sexual content of me whatsoever. But
yeah.
So I kind of get it. I've been there with other actors before. And I know that Kevin like accosts the Jeff Anderson. I suspect that Kevin doesn't think of Jeff Anderson as anything other than Randall, and that he has had weird boundaries based on that documentary.
In the documentary, every time he like meets up with him after like a certain amount of time, he's like, I'm making a new Clerks movie. He goes right. He's like Jeff makes it a point. He's like, right after the bat, he talks about how he's making a new Clerks movie, and he's like already pitching it to me.
It's like if you ask
thingy, Zach and Miri. I mean, he's good in that.
Zach and Miri is curious. I wonder if that was like, hey, sorry that you didn't make any money on Clerks 2. Let's make a bigger budget one with Seth Rogen, and maybe we can get you some money.
Yeah,
is it kind of like a?
And then it kind of flopped. So
yeah.
He just retired to his pot room.
Yeah, that right. Isn't that the story? He's like, he was so sad that it flopped that he watched Wayne Gretzky and smoked weed and
yes,
developed cancer.
DVDs of documentaries about Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, the Too Fat for 40 thing, which is funny because I'm about to be 37 and he would have been around that age. So I can't imagine myself just now
in a row
taking up. Yes, yeah, very good. I can't imagine myself just now taking up marijuana and just obsessing over Wayne Gretzky and coming out a different man.
It's a very like late in the game change to the whole personality probably. But
I mean, we'd all agree that his weed addiction has not been healthy for him. But I guess if you were going to develop one, it's better to develop it later in life.
Yeah, I do. Again, it's one of those things. I think there's probably like a kind of a guilt with him associated with it as well, because it's like he makes a big point of like, well, he can smoke weed, but he's got to be working. So as a result, he's just constantly been churning out shit for the past like 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you just saw Tusk for the first time, right?
Yeah.
You don't like Tusk.
It's so strange. Well, okay. I get the joke that it's like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if, this gross thing happened and whatever. Like there's like humor in there and stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the acting of like the two like leads, it's too sinister and desperate that it's like I recognize the joke, but I'm watching the performance and it's like, oh, it's no, it doesn't hit me right.
Yeah, I get you. I take it for it might help that I heard the podcast in advance of seeing the movie.
Oh no, I did too. Yeah. So I had all like the background of it and stuff, but it's one of those things when you get into like a film, because that's the thing as well. I mean, like I was telling you guys as well. I watched Red State.
Yep.
A few weeks ago for the first time, and it's like that one's so strange because it feels like he shouldn't have directed that film. It doesn't feel like one of his films at all. And then there's a similar carryover with this where it's like all the tension and all like the direction and everything. It feels very it's very skillfully done and well crafted and stuff.
Yeah.
but it just didn't. I don't know. I didn't like this one. And then he went on and made the Yoga Hoses, which we all love.
Yoga Hoses
everyone loves
is quite rough. Yeah,
it's a cult classic.
The cult classic Yoga Hosers. Yeah. So
the original script for Clerks 3 is is abysmal. No, it's abysmal. When they in this documentary they go through it, and I'm like, it's almost embarrassing. It's like it feels so false, that original script.
I agree. It's funny. It's kind of a testament to his ability, as like a speaker and stuff. Because when he's up on a stage, you're basically like pitching it to the crowd as like, well, this is what it would have been. And you're kind of with him for parts of it, because he definitely had like an excitement, going into it and stuff. You can see that he wanted to make it and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It's just, I don't need mass shootings in my fucking Clerks movie, and I don't need Silent Bob saving the day from a mass.
We should describe what it was. Does anybody remember?
Sorry.
So it was.
I couldn't remember that.
Instead of
the kites were in it.
Yep, the one thing that survives. So instead of having the heart attack and this whole thing that and making the movie, it's a completely different film. Hurricane Sandy, which was devastating to like the New Jersey, New York area, hits New Jersey and the Quick Stop. It levels the Quick Stop. So we have yet another movie where the Quick Stop is destroyed, which I think is already kind of redundant and stupid, especially after, anything that kind of like undercuts the ending of Clerks 2 is going to rub us the wrong way. And then, what else? Yeah. So Hurricane Sandy.
There's like a Ranger Rick or whatever. What is the
Ranger Danger?
Superhero. Ranger Danger.
The one
he
sorry,
he waits
I was
in
just
line
thinking
for this Ranger Danger.
the one
Randall
thing
does.
I'm so sorry. The one thing that might have saved that, the Quick Stop being destroyed, is if that's destroyed, they can't work there anymore, so they go back to movies, and that's also gone. Like, here's a new building.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was a Pizza Hut. Just back to it.
Yeah, rebuild the Quick Stop and the movies.
Yeah. Okay. So
Randall is standing in line to this Ranger Danger or whatever.
He has a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
So he's like almost like he's like desolate and homeless, and he's waiting in line. Yeah. He's waiting in line for the movie months in advance, and a little like kind of tent town pops up around him, and they call it the Quicker Stop, which is already a joke from the animated series. And then like you find out that Becky is dead. So much like the current movie, she died, but the kid survived, and the kid is deaf. Yeah.
Just because he spelled dead wrong.
and Kevin was like, it's just like in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, where we have, I just moved the deaf person from that movie to that movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what is the reason that the person is deaf? Is there a story purpose to any of this? The man's so strange. Anyway, and then so they like the movie. Oh yeah, you find out that Dante has cancer. That everybody thought that he was pill popping because he was searching for doctors, and so they thought that he was like an oxy addict. And so like Randall's like, you're an oxy addict. And there was something about like James, the movie opened the same way that Reboot opened, with the cock smoker thing and come out with your hands up. So that was like there's like an element of slapstick, but then there's also like Dante has cancer, Randall had a nervous breakdown, and then the movie ends at they go to the Ranger Danger premiere, and there was a mass shooter, because he wrote all of this around the time that like the guy shot up the Dark Knight Rises screening. It was all like that 2012 era. And Randall and Dante rush toward the shooter. Dante gets riddled with bullets and dies to save the deaf daughter, because everybody else evacuated, but the deaf daughter didn't know. And then, he sees Becky one last time or something. And then you find out that there was a second gunman that Jay and Silent Bob stopped. And at what point do you just go like, Clerks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clerks?
It's funny though, isn't it? Because it like him transplanting that opening onto like Jay and Silent Bob reboot, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he do the same thing with like Strike Back or something? There was a part off one of them that got transplanted onto one of the others.
Yeah, and I can respect that. I can respect that to some degree. You borrow from yourself sometimes, but very strange.
So the moral of the whole story is that Jeff Anderson is a saint and a hero for shooting down this script, because this script sounds awful, terrible, and Jeff Anderson didn't want anything to do with it and shut it down. Wouldn't even talk about it.
And he's all but said that. He's like, there was a script that didn't seem like the right way to go with Clerks. And even Brian O'Halloran, who seems down for everything, was like, Kevin had presented to us a very interesting but very dark version for Dante and Randall. But yeah, odd that he was committed to, like, I'm definitely going to kill Dante one way or another. I'm definitely going to kill Becky. And I'm going to invite misery onto my characters no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that says about him. And that still doesn't seem like Clerks. And it seems like he's held bent on that since the first Clerks.
Right.
And and for some reason was able to be talked out of it until this one.
Yeah, it's the Han Solo Harrison Ford agreement.
No, it very much reminds me of that. The whole like I'm just really I promise you I'm going to kill this character eventually. And it's a shame because you want to revisit these characters probably at some point, elderliness or something.
That's the thing though, isn't it? Because it's kind of, it feels very strange that he's gone about it that way. Because he had his interesting little like creative like burst with like Red State and like whether you like it or not, Tusk and like whatever else, and he just seems to be going back to like rebooting all his own stuff now. So I don't know why you wouldn't keep as many options open as you can. I don't.
Yeah, and he's talking about he's now made 15 features, he says, and he wants to get to 20 before the end of his life. And so he says, I'm going to make Moose Jaws, which he's been talking about for a very long time. I still don't quite know what it is. It's Jaws, but with a moose. It's like Jaws, but with a moose, man. It's going to be fucking amazing. And he keeps describing that as his Canadian trilogy. So
yeah, so
there's Tusk and that.
Yeah.
And yet now he wants to make a Tusk sequel called Tusks. So so that sequel spawns off a sequel.
The walrus has cancer.
I mean, we have to yeah. The walrus's wife died horrifically in a crash. It all does feel like a weird shortcut to drama. Like, anybody could do that, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. Because your thing isn't built on drama; it's built primarily on comedy and stuff. And
it's certainly not the point. I mean, like,
no,
I enjoy a little bit of stakes in my comedy as much as the next guy, but it's not surely. But I've in our comments and stuff, I've heard pushback from people who are like, "You guys don't get it. It's about mortality. It's about life. It's about aging." And I'm like, no, I get it. I just think it's like really, like freshman year of college style.
Yes,
right?
yes,
yeah.
It's just funny how much of it is like because it's so like autobiographical of like the making of the film that he made, and then it just plop a death on the end. I don't.
Odd.
You'd think you'd want to be a little more hopeful than that.
Well, yeah, it's like the end of Clerks 2, which apparently 2 weeks later it all went to shit.
Yeah,
Hurricane Sandy came sweeping in. A drunk driver nailed Becky. The kid died in utero. It was all
and she was deaf.
And
she was deaf before she died. Somehow.
She was deaf in utero, and then 12 years later, Dante dropped dead of a heart attack.
It's very strange. I mean, considering like Reboot was kind of just like he's kind of treading water a little bit, but it's nice to see you know, all these people come back and, you know, do whatever. It's like, I don't know. Who's going to die in Mallrats?
Yeah. Well, so anyway, one thing that surprised me that I didn't know, you know, because I feel like because I've been such a fan for such a long time, I thought I knew everything, but I didn't realize that so I always knew that the Clerks animated series, which I think is really funny, and they were really hopeful about because ABC, owned by Disney, greenlit it as like a primetime adult kind of PG-13 animated series to compete. You know, it really was to compete with South Park because South Park was airing on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock and it was humongous, like just a total cultural storm. And they were like, well, fuck, we've got real money. We can do prime. And they came up with the idea of like, well, why don't we reach out to the Clerks guys? That would be, you know, and it is a good animated series. But what happened, and I always knew that they had preempted it. They didn't really air it. They aired like 2 episodes out of order and then canceled the whole thing. And they announced that they were canceling it before any episode aired, even though they had run Super Bowl spots for it. So it was like, so what's the explanation there? They offer an explanation in this documentary. It was that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on ABC, hosted by Regis Philbin, took the world by storm. They were getting ratings that were out of this world for a cheap ass show where you ask normal people basic questions.
And they could air it 3 times a week. It costs nothing. And it was getting monster ratings. Monster.
Like, why would we compete with ourselves? Why would we ever air anything besides this for the rest of our lives?
And I watched both Clerks episodes live.
That is wild.
And I watched it on air live and I loved it. And then it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when he was talking about, you know, the first draft of Clerks 3, it felt more like a Clerks animated episode. You know, the way it's a lot more like not, it doesn't feel like Clerks, does it? It's like an exaggerated, like sort of tanned up version.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But, you know, you're a big, you said, is it true that Clerks 1 is your favorite movie, Dan?
Yeah.
Of all time?
Yes.
I agree that Clerks 1 really does stand up. I watched it not too long ago and I was like, this stands up. Clerks 2, I remembered liking more than I did this time around. I felt like some of the weird, I don't know, maybe the 2006 sensibilities about it. Like it's some of the stuff with his wife, some of the way that obviously he regards Rosario Dawson. Brian O'Halloran in color basically like doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And with his what I always fixate on, he has that tight choker with the cross on it. And you know, I have no problem with that, but there's something that's really uncomfortable about it. And that's kind of, I'm a Christian, but it's weird.
Yeah. This is like way too Christian.
It's like, but it's the tightness of the choker with the cross.
I was actually, I was listening this past Sunday. My pastor is about my age and he's like, you know, he dresses in jeans. He's one of these kind of contemporary pastors. You wouldn't see him at a Catholic church. And, he
wasn't failing the Buddy Christ. And
he's a little bit on the Buddy Christ side. He's like a great musician and stuff. I tell you, their music slaps. This Christian rock band that I go to every Sunday. But he was telling a story about, he's like, my mom bought me this giant wooden cross that I wore, and he's like, people started calling me Friar. Friar was my nickname in elementary school because I had this giant cross around my chest. I'm trying to think, was there anything else I wanted to say about Clerks? Oh, well, just
the weird thing about one thing about Clerks 2 is strange is, you know, it was released in theaters. And I remember it being like kind of an event. I went to see it in theaters and it was a packed theater. It's such a different time frame, man. Yeah. It's like such a different time. Yeah. And I did enjoy it at the time. I didn't really care for the donkey show stuff, but I remember enjoying it at the time. But
comedically, it feels kind of at home with what they're doing. I think it kind of works. I mean, it's a little dumb, but it kind of makes sense. Yeah. Like we're gonna take over our own restaurant, you know.
Yeah, it's a good like you know with all like the donkey show and stuff. It's a decent like comedy of errors kind of thing. You know, just the amount of dominoes that fall and stuff.
Yeah,
but it's just such a different time when you think about what draws people to the theaters now with Avatar and Maverick and stuff like that. And then those are the only things that are drawing people to the theaters.
Yeah.
But that was a full theater. Like I remember Clerks 2, it was huge. And everyone's renting Clerks in anticipation up to that and things like that. It's crazy.
There was a thing that he said on the documentary. I think it's on the Blu-ray, but he was talking about like the night before and they were all set up to shoot and stuff. He watched Clerks 1, to see like his headspace because he was in then, and I think you can recognize that when you watch it. Like it's got like the introductory cards, and there's a lot of like kind of parallels between the two. There's not really any of that in Clerks 3. It just sort of starts and goes, and then it doesn't go where you.
I tried to rewatch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot recently, and it's not the worst thing ever, but it's a pretty big slog, and it's Clerks 3 is better than it. I'll give him that. I think it's a big step up from. So I don't know. He's in a big slump, and I think I hope that I hope that he like we just on Discord we rated our favorites to our least favorite, and everybody had different opinions. But if you looked, like the old stuff they like best and the new stuff they like least is kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. Do you think he kind of, because again he's made this film presumably for the fans, but then the fans have heard all his stories over the years, so they've. Do you think that detracts at all from what this film is? The fact that he's basically just refilming stuff
probably a bit. And I've heard people say, and I agree that like Zach and Miri also already did like the we're making a movie in our workplace thing.
Right.
It kind of took the premise, but it didn't. I
think at the end of the day, if you're going to make a Clerks 3, it's all of the death and weirdness aside, it's the premise of Randall wants to make a movie is a really good one. And even if it is a bit repetitive, even if it is like the fans all saw it, there's always new fans. There's always younger fans.
Yeah.
There's always like new people figuring, it happens to us where we've been making YouTube stuff for 10 years and like somebody will pop up and they'll be introduced to you in out of order or something. There's some fan that is commenting on every single box Mac. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. They just found us and is going through every single episode and commenting on every
Breezy Bake Oven. Yes, she's been...
yeah. Well, shout out to Breezy Bake Oven. I hope you listen to this.
Here's a thought. So when I first like got into all like the Kevin Smith stuff, I think most of it wasn't that long ago I started watching them. Like probably about like 7 years ago, something like that. So I watched Clerks, and then my cousin was there, and he had Clerks too. And it's like, okay, we'll put that on then.
Yeah.
And to go from Clerks, where they're all young and it's like this gritty thing, to suddenly Dante's showing up to open the store, and it's a little bit like, whoa,
yeah,
what happened there? What's it going to be like for someone, like you say, who like discovers these films now, and it's like, well, watch Clerks 1, 2, and 3 because there's 3 of them. What fucking roller coaster is that going to look like?
Yeah, like if you spent your whole evening knowing nothing about any of it, and you just went through the whole trilogy, it'd be odd.
Yeah,
I guess it would be.
Clerks 2 feels like a production. It feels like. An event production that the Weinsteins financed. Like it feels like
that Scott Mosier was part of.
Yeah.
That was another really cool story in the Clerks 3 decades thing was, so when he went to the Vancouver Film School, he met Scott Mosier, he met Dave Klein, who is their cinematographer. He shot Clerks. They went and got career opportunities, but the cinematographer didn't because the movie doesn't really look very good. Right. And so he was like, he's like, the only way I was going to have a career is if I got to work with these guys. And then the studios didn't want me to work with them. The studios wanted to get these guys real professionals. And so he's like, so I just had to like go out there and get a job kind of from scratch. And if anything, Clerks held me back because I had to admit, not only did I shoot that movie that looks terrible, but also, here's the reason why I'm not allowed to work with those guys. So he had to like keep explaining himself. But I find it incredibly inspiring because that guy now, like, do you know, Dan, he shot Book of Boba Fett, that guy?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic. I mean,
he went from
finally
Clerks.
Came back around.
Yeah, it's so good. Good. Oh, one last thing was, as I was so he wants to do Moose Jaws. He said he wants to do another Jay and Silent Bob movie someday where Jay Muse's kid plays Harley's kid. And he's like, that way it's a trilogy, man. He wants to do something about his hometown. I think it was called 430. He said nothing about Hit Somebody, which he used to talk about all the time and then just stopped talking about it.
Yeah, I think he's just written that one off. But there was a thing that, again, I could tell. I was listening to a couple of Smogcasts earlier.
Yeah.
But it was the guy. Oh, the fuck's his name? Bellicose.
Oh yeah. His like childhood friend. Yep.
Yeah. That it was very interesting listening to him talk to him. It's like that seems to be like one of the, again, you talk about these people who aren't actors and stuff. He seems to have like a good team around him at all, kind of times and stuff like that.
Well, that's where I wanted to go with. That's where I wanted to go with it. Was I think for however crazy he is, for however high he is, for however many times he cries and gives speeches, he is still a pretty likable person. I bet that if you got to know him, he'd have an infectious personality. He is a very good hype man for his own material. And in spite of his downward trajectory, I'm very impressed and continue to be inspired by his ability to manifest nonsense. Like he'll come up with a crazy idea and he will secure funding for it. And sometimes it takes 10 years. Sometimes he says, I'm going to make Clerks 3 for 10 years. And he goes on a stage and announces it, even though nothing's greenlit and nothing's financed. Yeah. And it's like, I promise you, I'm going to make that movie. And it does happen. And it's like, and I love the way he like, if something falls through, he announces something else and it's a little like it's ill-advised. Like don't announce things that might not happen. But I like, he calls it throwing his hat over the fence. It's just like, I'll just, if I talk about it and I try to act like it's real, maybe it'll become real. I think that's really cool.
There was a thing in that documentary, just before we go on, but like that I thought was bizarre. Where it's like they got the rights to Jay and Silent Bob,
right? Yeah,
just from the studio, and it's like I don't. I've never heard of that happening in anything.
Yeah, and they sold it as like Jay is afraid that Disney will own his actual name. Like WWE owns John Cena or something. Like,
yeah,
fine. You can have him. That's pretty. Yeah,
it's so strange.
I've heard him
like
say
Rosario Dawson's interviews always were so glowing of Kevin, and almost to the point where she is a little bit glassy eyed and
just slightly embarrassing for everybody.
Yeah, starts taking selfies of herself, putting them on Twitter. Look how emotional I got talking about Kevin Smith.
Yeah, she does. She seems like a pretty genuine person. She seems like somebody who just enjoys being in movies, like, and is excited to be in movies. It's pretty cool.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.